Okay, so there you are in the medical legal office or the medical legal profession. There are prevailing systems, meaning not all countries in the world have the same organization or system of having a medical legal practitioner in their court. In the Philippines, we follow also the medical legal office system. What does it mean by that? Okay, so more often than not, it is handled by a medical jurist, meaning a person who is expert in the medical field at the same time, expert also in the jurisprudence, or a medical legal officer. Again, from the word medical legal, that is an officer, okay, or that is the knowledge in which it is applicable to answering issues insofar as criminal cases are concerned. And take note today, the only medical officer that is now allowed to sit as a medical legal officer or to be appointed as such is only a registered physician. Unlike during the olden times, as we have already discussed, na kahit hindi ka doctor of medicine, kahit hindi ka pasado sa board exam ng medicine, ay pwede kang maging medical legal officer those times. But today, okay, ang pwedeng maging medical legal officer lang because they are considered as expert witnesses later on, kailangan yung mga registered physician. So the NBI and the Manila Police Department, as well as the old Philippine Constabulary, now INP or PNP, they have their own medical legal offices with their own respective medical legal officers. Okay? So further, the medical legal officer investigates medical legal cases of death. So assuming sa Pilipinas kasi pag mayroong nabangungot, ano sabi natin? Maraming kinain, 'di ba? Okay. Ayan, kaya nabangungot. So o kaya naman sabi nila nabangungot, nakalimutang huminga. O, 'di ba? Totoo naman 'yon kasi meron naman talagang cause of death na tinatawag nating apnea. Ito yung sudden stoppage of one's breathing. Okay? Pag sinabi mo namang dyspnea, ito naman yung irregular breathing of a person that may cause asphyxiation later on. Okay, so in the Philippines, traditionally, pag may namatay sa bangungot, yun ang kanyang kapalaran, namatay sa bangungot. But somehow in other countries, automatically, they are going to conduct autopsy to prove whether the person really died of a bangungot or whether that person died or he was stroke or he suffered heart attack while sleeping. Okay? Or it may be that the person was intentionally killed, no? So yun ang idea nun. Kapag may mga kamatayan or tinatawag natin may pagkamatay ng isang tao na there is what you call a cloud of doubt, somehow the medical legal officer will come in to investigate whether the death of a person is accidental, intentional, or natural. And even physical injuries. Only the medical legal officer can determine what is the extent of the physical injury. Siyang magsasabi whether yung physical injury suffered by the victim is less serious or less we call it light serious like that or serious physical injuries because only the medical legal officer can determine the duration of healing of the injury suffered by the victim. Not only that, the medical legal officer will investigate what causes the physical injury. Just like what happened in the case of Christine Dacera. No? So may mga allegedly bruises sa paa. May mga bruises sa kanyang paa. So the medical legal officer is function is to investigate what causes the bruises in the we call it on the legs and the thigh of the victim. Were they part of we call it violent death or were they just what you call natural post-mortem changes, no? Pag sinabi natin post-mortem, pagkatapos na namatay, may mga changes na nangyari sa katawan ng tao na inaakala natin ang mga yon ay mga signs of brutality or signs of injury, but in reality, okay, malamang na ito ay mga natural post-mortem changes which we are going to discuss as we move on later on in this subject matter. Okay, what else? In cases of rape, na-rape ba talaga yan? Ano? Okay, baka naman rape with consent yan. Ano? But of course, in rape cases kasi, Hindi importante na may laceration as long as ma-prove that the carnal knowledge was against the will of the person. And again, the medical legal officer is the only person authorized to conduct medical legal examination on the victim, whether he was really indeed or he was sexually assaulted or not. Okay, and of course other sexual crimes. And further, the duty of the medical legal officer is to examine the victim, okay, and to make a report to appear in court as expert witness when summoned by the proper authorities. So papag-aralan niya yung mga bruises sa katawan, he will conduct postmortem examination, and if necessary, magkakandak ng autopsy on the body of the person. And of course, not only the victim, even the suspect ay in-examine din ni medical legal officer pag meron siyang mga abrasion sa katawan or mga scratches, so papag-aralan niya. Okay? Ano ba yung mga scratches na yun? Ito ba yung mga natural scratches lamang? Okay? Or ito'y na-scratch dahil sa kinalmot siya ng biktima. Okay? So, those are the things na tinatawag natin basically trabaho ng mga medical legal officers sa Pilipinas. In addition to that, kahit yung tinatawag nating consideration whether the person is drunk or not, part pa rin yon ng medical legal examination. Okay? Now, the medical examiner system, more or less that is practiced in America. However, remember that America consists of more than 50 states or more than 50 countries, no? Di kaya nga United States, no? Having their own territory, having their own people, having their own government, okay? And having their own, we call it sovereignty from one another, okay? So meron sila magkakaiba, mayroong gumagamit ng medical legal, may gumagamit ng coroner system, at may gumagamit ng medical examiner system. So in some parts of the US, it is preferred, although the coroner system is still used in some states. Kasi sa England kasi, sa Europe, ang gamit nila coroner system. Ano nga ba yung coroner? Coroner is, it talks about, we call it death investigation. No? Kasama doon yung autopsy. So the medical examiner system is handled by the chief medical examiner, who is a doctor of medicine appointed by the mayor in that area sa America, and from the classified list compiled by the civil medical examiner is a 24-hour work with clerical staff always present. Meaning, kapag ikaw yung inassign ni mayor sa Amerika na medical examiner, 24 hours yung duty mo. Okay? So meron ka mga clerical staff sa gabi na in case na, ibig sabihin yan, on call ka. Every 24 hours on call ka doon. Okay? Yun ang kanilang tawag natin system of medical legal examination sa Amerika. Sa Pilipinas kasi medyo yung ating medical legal practice dito medyo distinct kasi yung medical legal examiner sa atin dito ay hindi lamang siya nag-exam sa katawan ng tao, even siya rin ay pumupunta sa crime scene para mag-investigate. And normally siya ay na-appoint or na-assign as the SOCO team leader. And further, the medical examiner investigate the cause of death, especially violent death. So almost the same with the medical legal officer. But again, class, yung medical legal officer sa Pilipinas only provides assistance to the police investigator. Nagbibigay lamang sila ng assistance. Unlike in America, yung medical examiner system nila ay he may work independent to the police, or meaning, okay, so pwede siyang ayan, okay. So the medical examiner investigate the cause of death, especially violent death, after being informed by the police officer of a certain crime, and he goes to the crime scene, interview witnesses, examine the victim, and then take specimens, if any, for examination and present his medical report to the court. Okay, so take note sa Pilipinas, yung medical legal system natin, yung ating medical legal officer only provides assistance to the police. The medical legal officer in the country does not work independently with the police. In fact, in the PNP, the medico-legal officer is part of the police organization or a police officer himself. Whereas in America, in some states in America, the medical examiner may work separate to the police. He may conduct his own investigation. Yun ang kaibahan nila ng medico-legal system in the Philippines and the medical examiner in the US, in some states in the US. So what about the coroner system? When you say coroner, tungkol ito sa pag-examine ng patay. Ito yung death investigation na tinatawag. Ang coroner kasi is an English na tinatawag natin. So it probably originated in England, although there are no records of its actual origin. In common law, the office of the coroner is a very ancient one. Anong ibig sabihin ng common law? Parang yung tradition. Traditionally, ang ibig sabihin niyan ay meron na talagang nakatalaga na mag-i-examine sa mga patay. Siya yung magdi-declare whether yung tao ay namatay sa kulam, whether yung tao ay namatay sa witchcraft, or whether siya ay pinatay. Yun ang trabaho during the ancient time. Okay, siya yung taga-declare or siya rin yung taga-preserve ng bangkay, siya rin yung taga-balsamo. Yun ang trabaho ng coroner system during the olden times. But of course, the coroner system that the English people have today is different from, we call it the coroner system of long time ago. That's why in England, ang tawag sa kanya is custodes placitorum coronae. Meaning siya yung nasa kanya yung custody ng mga bangkay or keeper of the king's fleece, no? Yan yung tungkol sa royalties. Okay? In Magna Carta or Magna Charta, that is not Magna, that is Magna, refers to the coroner as coronator. A report, although there is evidence that coroners existed also in Australia, United States, and other colonies of England. Kaya yung coroner system class, talaga ang kwan lamang niyan is yung pagbangkay na. Hindi siya pumupunta sa crime scene. Okay? Ang trabaho lang niya, dun siya sa morgue. Doon lamang siya, tinatawag natin, nagtatrabaho. Doon lang siya nagkakandak ng examination. So sa Amerika ay every states meron silang iba't ibang style ng medical legal. So merong gumagamit ng medical examiner system na kung saan yung medical examiner ay pwedeng pumunta sa crime scene, mag-imbestiga, okay? Ganun siya. Yan. So sa Pilipinas, ang medical legal system ay kasama sila doon sa mismong investigation bureau. Yung coroner system naman, normally, limited siya doon sa morgue nagtatrabaho. Yan. Now, let's move on. Pinag-uusapan natin ang legal medicine. No? Ano nga ba ang legal medicine? Anong pagkakaiba niyan sa forensic medicine at sa medical jurisprudence? Okay? So, somehow, pag sinabi mong legal medicine, you are referring to the knowledge itself. Yung knowledge. Okay? It's a branch of medicine na ang pinapag-aralan nila is yung tinatawag natin, i-apply mo, paano i-apply ang medical knowledge sa legal problems or legal proceedings. Samantala, pag sinabi mong forensic medicine, ito ngayon yung pag-a-apply mo ng medicine, ito na yung process of applying. Samantalang yung legal medicine, yung paano ito i-apply. Ibig sabihin yan, kapag ikaw ay, say for example, meron tayong kursong Bachelor of Science in Legal Medicine, assuming lang na meron. Kapag ikaw ay nag-graduate niyan, okay, meron kang knowledgeable ka sa legal medicine. Ikaw ba ay forensic ikaw na nga ba ay expert sa forensic medicine? Hindi pa. No? Kasi ang forensic medicine, ito na yung actual application. Samantalang legal medicine, para maunawaan nyo kasi pag binabasa nyo yung legal medicine at saka forensic medicine, parang magkaparehas. Okay, simplify natin. Legal medicine is a branch of medicine that deals with the application of medical knowledge. Okay? So, ang pinapag-aralan nyo dyan is yung mga medical knowledge kung paano ito i-apply sa legal problems and legal proceedings. At ganon din, ang legal medicine ay, okay, yung tinatawag natin na application of medical knowledge for the purpose of law sa batas, and of course, to attain the proper administration of justice. Or it is a branch of medicine that is applied to legal cases. Now, anong pagkakaiba niyan doon sa forensic medicine? So, ang forensic medicine, ito na yung tinatawag natin, nandun ka na sa korte. You are now elucidating legal problems. So, that is now the forensic medicine. Yung anong in-apply mo sa forensic medicine? Yung legal medicine ang in-apply mo. Pag nandun ka na sa korte, actual nang ginagamit mo yung legal medicine sa korte, ang tawag na doon ay forensic medicine. Kaya yung forensic medicine sa legal medicine ay magkapatid yan, but they are not necessarily the same. The legal medicine concerns about the knowledge, about the area that deals with medicine as applied to legal proceedings. On the other hand, yung forensic medicine, yun na, nandun ka na sa korte. Okay? Nakikipag-argue ka na doon, nakipag-debate ka na doon, okay? At in-explain mo na doon yung findings mo. That is now the forensic medicine. Okay? So, anything class, any natural science that is applied to elucidate legal problem is called forensic science. From the word forum or fora. The word forum is singular and the word fora is plural, no? Which means we call it yung area kung saan nagdi-discuss yung mga tao. Okay? So ganun na, legal medicine, you are talking about the branch of medicine. Nang pinapag-aralan ay yung application ng medical science sa legal problems. Pero pag sinabi mong forensic medicine, ito na yung actual na pag-a-apply mo ng medico-legal knowledge doon sa elucidation of legal problems. What about the medical jurisprudence, which we have already discussed a while back? So medical jurisprudence, ito yung knowledge of law in relation to the practice of medicine. Meaning, ano ibig sabihin nun? Yung mga batas na nag-govern sa pag-practice ng medicine, ang tawag doon ay medical jurisprudence. Those are the laws, okay, governing the practice of medicine, okay, providing for the restrictions, prohibitions, okay, and the rules, okay, governing the practice of medicine. So parang sa atin, sa criminology, we are governed by our jurisprudence. The criminology jurisprudence, which is your Republic Act 11131. The law that we call it professionalizes the practice of criminology in the Philippines. So, yun ang nagbabantay kung tama yung ginagawa natin bilang criminologists. Yung mga batas na kumukover sa atin. Kaya pag sinabi mong medical jurisprudence, ito rin yung mga batas, okay, na kumukover sa pag-practice ng medicine. That's why it says in there, it is a branch of law that deals with the organization and regulation of the medical profession. Kung mali yung ginawa mo, say for example, criminologist ka, nanuntok ka ng tao, natanggalan ng ngipin, o kakasuhan ka dyan. Illegal practice of dentistry, di ba? Kasi tinanggalan mo ng ngipin yung tao, nag-violate ka ng dental jurisprudence. Pero wala yun, class. Wala yun. Okay? Yan. So, yun ang pagkakaiba ng legal medicine, forensic medicine, and medical jurisprudence. What about medicine? Medicine is a healing art. Bakit healing art? Kasi ganito yung class. Pag sinabi mong healing art, okay, ang art kasi is dependent on the circumstances. Meaning, yung sakit ng ulo ay hindi isa ang pwede mong pangpagamot sa sakit ng ulo. Kapag na-stress yung asawa mo, yung girlfriend mo na-stress, anong gamot niyan? Una, pahinga. Okay? Magpahinga siya. Pangalawa, wag mo siyang awayin kasi na-stress na nga sa'yo eh. Yun ang gamot nun. Pangatlo, bigyan mo ng pera, pampatanggal ng stress yun, di ba? Yun, ang ibig sabihin nun. May mga iba, yung mga iba gumagaling na nagpapahinga. Yung iba, kahit magpahinga, kung di mo binigyan ng pera, stress pa rin. Parang ganun lang yun, no? Di ba? So, kidding aside class, parang yung investigation is an art. Okay? Investigation is an art because when you investigate, there are approaches that are applicable to a particular crime but may not be also applicable to another crime. Kaya ang investigation nagiging art kasi hindi pare-parehas na technique ang ina-apply mo sa pag-iimbestiga. So it will be dependent on the circumstances, dependent on the people you are investigating. Kaya pag sinabi mong medicine is a healing art, kahit yung mga doktor, di ba mga doktor, pag nagpa-doktor ka, okay, ganito ang sasabihin niya sa sakit mo. Pag nagpa-second opinion ka, tignan mo, iba naman ang sasabihin niya. Kasi para sa unang doktor na pinuntahan mo, ito yung nararapat mong gawin para gumaling ka. Yung pangalawa, ito naman ang gagawin mo. Sinong tama doon? Parehas silang tama. Only that, magkaiba sila ng approach doon sa sakit mo. Di ba? So, kagaya ng isang criminology student, sumasakit yung ulo niya, ang sabi ng doktor sa kanya, baka may migraine ka. Binigyan ng gamot. After 3 months, persistent pa rin yung sakit ng ulo. Okay? So, ang sabi ng kanyang doktor, baka mas maganda siguro magpa-x-ray ka ng ulo mo para makita natin baka meron kang kumbaga plema. Baka yung migraine mo ay cause na yan ng tinatawag natin yung mga plema, sinusitis na tinatawag natin. After na nagpa-x-ray yung criminology student, nakuha niyang x-ray niya at pinakita niya sa doktor, tuwang-tuwa yung criminology student. Pag uwi niya sa bahay nila, sabi niya sa nanay niya, Nay, nakakatuwa yung result ng aking x-ray. Sabi, bakit anak? Kasi Nay, 3 pala yung utak ko. Bakit 3? Sabi ni nanay. Kasi sabi ng doktor, iho, sa utak mo, you have tumor. Di ba? Kaya pinag-add niya, may tumor sa kaisa, 3 daw yung utak niya, kaya masaya yung bata, di ba? Okay, but of course, ginigising ko lang yung mga natutulog dyan. Okay? So now, yan. So, anong ibig sabihin yan? So, ganun ang medicine, ano? It is, in a way, art. Kasi may kanya-kanyang style din yung mga doktor. Pero tama sila lahat. Okay? Or it could be a science also because meron silang step-by-step na pinapagawa. Just like investigation, it's also a science. Kasi may step-by-step ka din na sinusundan. But of course, in investigation, the purpose is to identify the perpetrator and to locate the perpetrator and to provide evidence necessary to prove the guilt of the perpetrator. On the other hand, the medical practitioners, okay, they apply a healing art or healing science because ang purpose nila is to preserve health and to treat disease. Okay, and the very purpose is to cure that person. Okay, kaya nga yung curfew, di ba? Masamang naisip natin sa curfew, no? Anyways, let's move on. Anong klase mga medicine yan? Pwedeng internal, surgery, pathology, gynecology, obstetrics, or any other field of medicine. Okay, so the word medico, it pertains to the medical science. So when you say legal, on the other hand, it pertains to law. So when you say medical science, it's a branch of natural science. Natural science. So ano yung mga natural sciences natin? Marami. Biology, anatomy, anthropology, physics, okay, chemistry. Those are natural sciences. And one of the branches of natural sciences is medical science. Okay? So branch lamang siya. Okay? So related pa rin siya. Say for example, if you decide to take up medicine later on, the best undergrad would be BS Biology. Kasi sa BS Biology, isang pag-aaralan doon is sa human anatomy. At yun din ang focus ng medical science. Yung understanding of the human anatomy, the illnesses, the diseases that may occur, and how to prevent those things, and how to cure those diseases and illnesses is the primary aim of medical science. Okay, so what is now the scope of legal medicine? the application of medical and paramedical sciences. When you say paramedical, ito yung mga related sa sciences. Ano yun? Pwedeng yung anthropology, kasi yung anthropometry, kasi tungkol sa buto yon. Pwede yon, kasama yon. Those are paramedical sciences. No? Yan, mga physical therapist, tinatawag din. No? Yan. Sa eyes, pwede rin yon. Part din siya ng medical science. Mga paramedical ang tawag doon. No? And of course, other practices that more or less affects the body of a person. Those are paramedical sciences, yung mga albularyo, not albularyo, mga herbal medicine, those are paramedical sciences. And so long as it is demanded by law and administration of justice, meaning, kung yan ay pinoprovide ng batas, okay, para lamang sa administration of justice. So what is the nature now of the study of legal medicine? So anong pinaka-nature niya? Just like what is the nature of the work of criminal investigator or criminal investigation? The nature is to gather facts. O yun. So ganun din. Ang legal medicine, first thing first, okay, the very nature is the acquisition of facts or the collection of facts and then arranging those facts so that you can come up with a conclusion. Just like in criminal investigation, you gather facts, you collect facts, and then you arrange them, okay, so that you can come up with a conclusion of the crime committed. And later on, you're going to present that in the court. So when you say legal medicine, the nature of that is the ability to acquire facts, you arrange them, and from the facts, you're now going to draw your conclusion, or what can you say, whether you affirm or you reject the notion that the person committed suicide or the person, okay, died of a natural death. Just like the case of Christine Dasira, no? Kakaproblema sila ngayon doon. Yan. So sino naman si medical jurist? Si medical jurist is a medical, sometimes called medical examiner, sometimes called medico-legal officer, and sometimes called medico-legal expert. He is a physician who specializes primarily with medico-legal duties, meaning physician siya. Pero ang talagang specialization niya ay yung mga sagutin sa korte, i-present sa korte, yung medical explanation niya as to the death of the person, as to the injury of the person, for purposes of exonerating the innocent and convicting the guilty person. Okay? And accordingly, Imhotep is the earliest medico-legal expert. That's the according to researchers. Now, we compare. Ang ordinary physician, si doktor, kumpara mo sa isang medico-legal officer. Kapag yung injury or merong disease, okay, sa point of view ni ordinary physician is papag-aralan niya yung injury at yung disease para kung paano gamutin. Pero si medico-legal officer, papag-aralan niya yung injury or disease para alamin niya yung cause. Ito ba'y accidental, ito ba'y intentional, or ito ay natural cause? So that kakasuhan yung dapat kasuhan. Just like what happened doon sa kaso ni Christine Dasera na kailangan alamin yung cause. At yung cause na ba yun ay it was, we call it caused by another person so that they can file the necessary charges against that person. Okay. On the other hand, the patient, in the examination patient, the purpose of the ordinary physician is to diagnose yung sakit niya at maibigay yung tamang prescription of drugs. On the other hand, the medico-legal officer, when he examines the patient, the purpose is that he is going to testify later on in the court of justice. Insofar as minor injuries are concerned, ang ordinary physician sabi niya, kalmot lang yan, kunti lang yan. Hindi niya papansinin. Pero kapag si medico-legal officer, pag may nakita siyang mga scratches sa katawan ng suspect or sa biktima, kailangan papag-aralan yun, i-record niya lahat yun. At alamin niya yung, kumbaga, maaring crime na nakumit or baka mayroon bang crime na nakumit. Di ba? Ito ba ay sign of struggle? Yung mga minor injuries na yan. Okay. So, in medico-legal practice class or in forensic science practice, meron tinatawag na principle of stare decisis. Ano yun, class? When the court has once laid an interpretation of law as applied to certain facts, it will adhere to and apply to all future cases where the facts are substantially the same. So meron tayong tinatawag na principles of law. Or kapag yan ay nag-govern sa iba't ibang bansa, ang tawag international principles of law. Ano yon, class? Okay? Na kapag ngayon ay may napatunayan ng science na yung ganitong bagay is caused by this thing, at yun ang naging basihan ni tawag natin ni korte, later on, pwedeng gamitin yon, okay, na magiging batayan ng judge sa kanyang pag-decide kasi merong similar case. Merong similar, we call it elements of the crime. Kaya makikita nyo sa mga judges or sa mga decision ng mga court, nagsasite sila ng mga Supreme Court rulings or nagsasite sila ng mga constitutional rulings to prove their argument. Okay? Kaya kapag yung isang tao ay yung condition niya ay similar sa isang condition ng ilang taon na at na decision ng korte, yun na ang susundan ni korte na decision niya. Unless may mga scientific changes on the principle. Okay, so once again, let's go back to the topic where we stopped a while back. Well, in medico-legal investigation class, not all cases are actually solved by medico-legal experts. Okay, there are some cases that could not really be solved by the investigators or whether how expert you are in this particular field of study. Well, one of the reasons there is that the lack of proficiency. Okay, so that is a typographical error. That should be LACK. That is not LOCK. No? So lack of proficiency by the physician in medico-legal work. So you have a physician, but somehow he lacks that proficiency in, we call it, handling cases. So just like what happened to Christine Dasira case, no? Malamang kulang siya ng medico-legal work proficiency, kaya ganun ang ginawa ng medico-legal officer na pinabalsa mo niya kaagad yung biktima, no? Then of course, inadequate facilities, maaring kulang sa mga high-tech equipment to facilitate discussion or to facilitate examination. And inadequate means of transportation and communication, that is in matters of preserving, collecting and preserving evidence. So there may be some, we call it errors in the transportation of evidence and the manner of communicating them. And then the lack of sufficient training in medical legal work by the police investigator and other law enforcement agent. But of course today, in our time, I do not consider that our medical legal experts today lack sufficient training. So I believe they are properly trained right now. Okay? Although there may be instances that a person may be appointed with lack of sufficient knowledge and training, no? Yung mga neophyte na tinatawag natin or baguhan sa serbisyo. And insufficient physician and personnel to handle medical legal cases, meaning kulang yung mga mag-handle ng mga kaso. That's why, class, in medical legal examination, there is what you call forensic nursing. Ano yung forensic nursing, class? Nurses are trained, okay, to identify or recognize medical legal evidence or medical evidence, okay, that in the emergency room, once na mayroong dinalang mga victim na mga violent crimes, the nurses should be aware of what are the possible pieces of evidence that can be recorded or preserved in the body of the victim. Okay? Para if in case later on, nag-prosper yung kaso sa korte, yung mga nurses, mga nag-attend doon sa biktima, doon sa emergency room, at least, no? They can give testimony as to the nature or as to the appearance of the victim's body when it was rushed to the hospital or when they received the body in the hospital.